Hallo YouTube. Jetzt habe ich mal was Neues für euch. Wissenschaft. Ja, ist ein bisschen komisch, dass ich das hier angehe, aber es gibt Wissenschaftler, die haben ihre eigenen YouTube-Kanäle und reden dann da über die Verbindung von verschiedenen Science-Fiction-Universen in Form von mit Wissenschaft in Kombination. Wie weit sind wir da schon dran? Wie wahrscheinlich ist es, dass man Technologie A aus Universum B bei uns hin schafft und. Ne? Also schaffen wir es, einen Warp Drive zu bauen? Schaffen wir es, Lichtschwerter zu bauen? Sowas in der Art. Ne? Und es gibt es als Podcast teilweise auf YouTube. Es gibt es auch als richtiges YouTube-Video mit vergleichenden Dingern dabei und so. Und ich schaue mir sowas auch ganz gerne mal an. Da sind auch bei den deutschen Wissenschafts-YouTubern so ein oder zwei schon mal dabei, die das dann machen. Und da ich die Technik hinter Filmen ziemlich geil finde, finde ich dann den Schritt danach auch ziemlich geil. Also, was ich meine ist, wenn man zum Beispiel erfährt, wie wird das Bühnenbild gemacht sozusagen. Also, wer ist dafür verantwortlich, dass das so aussieht, wie das aussieht. Finde ich auch ganz spannend. Habe ich auch noch ein Video zu, das muss aber noch fertig gemacht werden. Das hier habe ich mir angeguckt in einem Stream. Und das hier ist jetzt von Neil deGrasse Tyson, sein Podcast, den er hat. Star Talk. Hier spricht er mit zwei anderen darüber, über Star Trek und die Wissenschaft in Kombination. Also es ist viel Wissenschaft da mit drin. Und dann geht es auch darum, was schaffen wir von Star Trek zu uns zu übernehmen, was haben wir schon übernommen. Und ich fand es sehr interessant und habe mir das auch gerne angehört. Untertitel nein, leider, aber vielleicht findet es auch gut. Kleine Anmerkung noch für diejenigen, die nicht wissen, wer Neil deGrasse Tyson ist. Neil deGrasse Tyson ist US-amerikanischer Astrophysiker, Kosmologe, Hochschulprofessor, Wissenschaftsjournalist, Fernsehmoderator und Sachbuchautor. Damit habe ich, glaube ich, alles ausgerechnet. Das ist im Prinzip, ja, ich glaube, ihr wisst, wer das ist in Deutschland, ne? Und er ist halt das amerikanische Pendant dazu. Deswegen, also, der Mann hat Ahnung und der teilt sein Nerdwissen ganz gerne. Und er liebt auch Star Trek. Und das ist, glaube ich, nicht verkehrt, wenn man das kombiniert. Wie gesagt, ich schiebe das jetzt immer mal wieder ein, wenn ich sehe, dass da mal wieder was Interessantes ist. Und warum nicht? Ja, man kann ja auch mal hinterfragen, ob das, was in Science-Fiction-Filmen und Serien zu sehen ist, wirklich so funktioniert. Und hier fangen wir jetzt mal an mit unser aller Liebling, Star Trek. Und deswegen rein ins Video mit euch. Ich wünsche euch viel Spaß. Bis dann. Tja, was haben wir hier? Eine Stunde lang Diskussion. Ja, können wir uns auch noch mal tun. Das heißt Diskussion, die reden über die Technik von Star Trek. Mal gucken, was uns ein paar Wissenschaftler über die Technik von Star Trek erzählen können.
That you could travel hundreds of times the speed of light. They imagined that you could flip your little device in your hand and talk to someone thousands of miles away. They imagined you could walk up to a door and it would open without you touching.
When I saw Star Trek, that was the least believable part of it to me for the future. How does the door know? I was good with the photon torpedoes, the phasers, the communicators, the tricorders.
But the automatic door was just...
It was not happening.
Like, come on, guys.
Ja, automatische Türen haben wir ja mittlerweile.
This is Star Talk. Neil deGrasse Tyson here, your personal astrophysicist. And this is a Cosmic Queries edition, which means we got Chuck Nice in the house.
That's right.
All right, Chuck.
What's happening?
Now, your questions today are not random.
They are not indeed.
They are all on one subject.
That's right.
And that subject is?
The only subject. Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Star
We are
Trek.
overdue to have a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, that's right.
But I could get a little ways on that topic, but we have to go to our geek in chief.
We called him and said, make it so.
Charles Liu, welcome back to Star Talk.
Thank you, Neil.
Yeah.
Hello, Chuck.
Charles Liu, for those of you who don't know, is a friend and colleague. He's a professor at the City University of New York, still at Staten Island, but you're at the Graduate Center as well?
Yes.
Yes. Which interacts with graduate students and things, right?
It's a combination.
Yeah, good. And you have your own podcast.
It is called The Looniverse.
The Looniverse. I see what you did there.
Very, very cool.
I can't take credit for it. My family told me to use it. I was like, really? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah, no, that's
So,
good.
like,
That's
no,
good.
okay.
We'll give him that one. Okay. And I just learned my boy here. I'm so proud of him.
Okay.
I can say that because I'm 10 years older than him, so I get to say that. He just came out. I don't. Is this out yet?
It is out.
It is out
Yes.
yet. There's the Handy Answer Book, which is a series.
Okay.
Okay. And then there's the Handy Put in Your Favorite Subject Answer Book.
Right.
Okay. This is one that where's it been all our lives? Okay. The Handy Quantum Physics Answer Book. Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
Everybody who is claiming to invoke quantum physics to explain stuff they don't understand needs this book.
Absolutely. And there's a little Schrödinger cat right on the bottom.
Oh, you got a cat, right? So, and you got the little atom.
Yep.
And oh my gosh.
That's so cool. Look at that.
Because so this is, if you've, no, you don't
Kenny and
research
Bonnie
in
that
quantum
brauchen.
physics.
That's right. I use quantum.
You use quantum physics.
Every day.
So it's a user's guide.
That's really what it is. Yeah. The answer book is not designed to sort of reveal the most detailed, deep in the weeds research results, but it's kind of like we all know quantum is there and we wonder about it. So got a little question, got a little answer. There's a whole bunch
Well, there's a
of
whole biology section here.
yeah.
Okay.
How does quantum work in biology?
Work
a lot
in
of us don't
biology.
understand
Yeah,
that.
that's
Our
very cool.
eyes work because of quantum.
Yes, they do.
Ja, versuch mich mal da reinzulesen. Das
The
ist so viel Stoff.
photons that come hit our eyes, they have to activate certain cells. And the rods and cones are activated when you have a quantum reaction from a photon and a cell.
So those are molecules that
That's
are
right.
that are absorbing the photon. Something happens when the photon gets absorbed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's called sight. Ooh, you got a chapter on quantum entanglement.
Yes.
You've got bios on people who contributed here. And what is the size of the electron? That's my favorite one.
I love it.
Okay.
And what is the size of the electron?
It's at most 10 to the minus 18 meter in diameter. But the
10
thing
to the minus
is,
18.
right, so it's
why
a
do-
billionth
why are
of a
we
billionth of a
minus-
meter.
Why are we putting it in the minus? What measurement would it be in the positive? Like, why you got to be all negative?
Fair enough. A billionth of a billionth of a meter.
A billionth of a meter.
A billionth of a billionth.
A billionth of a billionth.
Yes.
Now, a billionth.
At most.
What is a nano? What's that?
That's a billionth.
That's a billion.
That's just billion.
So this is like
Billionth.
a nano.
Billion.
Get your THs in there.
Billionth.
Right. And a nano is 10 to the minus 9.
That's 10 to the minus
Okay.
9.
So 10 to the minus 9 times 10 to the minus 9 is 10
is
to
the 10.
A nano,
10 to the
nano.
minus
the
18.
nano.
Yeah.
Nano, it's a
As-
more
as opposed to-
Wissenschaftler.
Nano. Okay.
No, the thing is, though, the electron is so small and it has such a weird profile that its size isn't really determinate.
Right.
You can, depending on how you try to measure it or try to do things.
Wait a minute.
it's
So
really hard to
if
do.
the size is indeterminate, how do you measure it to get that number?
No, he didn't say. You weren't listening to him. He didn't say this is the size of the electron. He said it's smaller than this size. Because that was the smallest size we are capable of
So
measuring.
we can't measure anything smaller than that, but it's smaller.
And it might mean that the electron has no size at all.
Could it be?
For all we know.
So could it be that the electron is existing?
It's in the book.
a-
We got to get to the show.
Oh, that's right. No, this is not. That's just, see, this is what he did. This is what happens. This is what
not
happens when
the show.
you mess with the quantum, man.
If you mess with the quantum, you get the horns.
You get the horns, baby.
Oh my
And they're
gosh.
entangled. Those horns are in. Okay.
Okay, Star Trek. I'm old enough to say that the first round of Star Trek occurred in my living memory. That's how old I am.
That's cool.
I didn't see Star Trek until reruns.
Yeah, I saw
well,
it
of course,
when it came on weekly. I wasn't allowed to watch TV during a school week.
Oh, you
so
poor thing.
You had
most
some good parents.
most of the episodes I would ultimately see would be in reruns. But I was around when people were talking about Star Trek and what it meant to the people and to
I
culture.
can't believe they got the show where there's a black woman who answers the phone, but she's actually sitting next to all the other white people on the bridge. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, let's spend a minute before we get all racial on it.
Okay.
Let's find out what about the technologies do you find most intriguing, and remind us what year is it? The original season took place in what year
The
of
original
the future?
season supposedly took place around the year 2260.
Okay, so that would have been 200 years in the future.
That's right.
So the 1760s looks to the 1960s. Surely what the 1960s would look like the 2260.
Right.
Surely. That's a completely rational thinking there.
Right.
I mean, it could be. I mean, However,
Look, in 76 they'd have Conestoga wagons, and in the 1960s we're going to the moon. Thank you.
But
Enough.
I'm just
we're
gonna
done
say,
here.
There's kind of a hockey stick element to
No,
the
there's not.
progression.
No.
Yes.
You didn't read my recent book. No, you think it's a hockey stick. It's not.
You think that we're going to have faster than light travel?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. I'm saying the hockey stick is deeper than you know. The answer is, it's always a hockey stick.
I like that.
Okay, I'll get to that.
We're going to happen.
We're going to happen.
I see where you're going.
So
I like
Charles,
it.
you are an impressionable kid. You are a technologist culturally. You're a scientist. What in the science technology of Star Trek really impacted you?
Well, I always feel that I have to think back to Albert Einstein, who said that creativity and imagination was more important than knowledge. What you could imagine to
When you're
ultimately
Einstein,
happen.
you can say that.
Right.
But there's some dumbass people out there that don't know. No,
Once you get to a certain stage,
Chuck has been influencing me. It's,
a basic level of knowledge is, of course, extremely important.
Right.
But in order to really make advances, you really have to imagine something before it can exist, right? So what we
to dream it.
Yeah. So what we come from Star Trek, we fans of Star Trek, look at Star Trek and say, "Wow, they imagined that you could travel hundreds of times the speed of light.
Right.
They imagined that you could flip your little device in your hand and talk to someone thousands of miles away.
Hello,
they
Moto.
imagined, they imagined you could walk up to a door and it would open without you touching it. So
Wait,
all
are you
of that
saying that when
technology
Star
is
Trek came
incredible.
around, automatic doors weren't?
of course not.
No.
Did you hear? I've said it 100 times. I'll say it again. When I saw Star Trek, that was the least believable part of it to me for the future.
I remember you said that
Yes,
once.
that's why. That's what I'm saying. I said, how does the door know?
Yeah.
Okay. I was good with the photon torpedoes, the phasers, the communicators, the tricorders, and
But the automatic door was just
it was not happening.
like, come on, guys.
The best we had were pressure pads.
That's right. Going into like supermarkets.
Going into
Right.
supermarkets because you've got groceries and things.
Right.
You'd step on the pad, but you needed room for
Right.
the door
But
to
the
swing
door
open.
would swing open
There were no
still.
pocket
Right.
doors or
Right,
anything.
right.
So tell me,
Yeah.
where were you with the technology?
Well, as a kid, I didn't know yet how revolutionary all this stuff was. I just naturally assumed it. It's like, oh, okay, in the future, they'll have these phaser things. And it was really cool with the phasers that you could set them on stun. I just really liked the fact that they were designed not to be lethal.
So you're a kid, and that's just the future.
Yeah.
But they're thinking that future 200 years. I don't know that they're thinking that it's in their near future, in the
That's
future of the lifetime of people alive at the time of the show.
Yeah.
Because you go down the list, they had tablet computers. We got that.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
just
Boom.
check,
That's right.
check,
Boom. There it
checklist.
is.
Okay.
In my hand right now, a tablet.
Okay. We're not getting paid by Apple for him to hold up the logo in front of it. Okay. Apple call.
Now I got to read everything like this.
Tablet computers, handheld communicators.
That's right.
In fact, we went through
Flip
flip
phone.
phones, and now that's old. That's
right.
old.
That's old news.
That's old. If they try to go back with the, who's got the Samsung
Stimmt,
has
die
the folding
Klapptelefone. Ich
thing.
hatte auch eins. Gott, von wem war das? Weiß ich gar nicht mehr. Aber ich hatte eins zum Aufklappen. Das hatte auch so ein Star Trek-Vibe jedes Mal beim Aufklappen. War schön. Das war wirklich schön. Und Schiebetür, wenn ich mich an meine Kindheit zurückdenke, das stimmt, da gab es keine Schiebetüren. Die Türen gingen beim Reingehen nach innen auf und beim Rausgehen nach außen auf. Schiebetüren kamen erst später. Da war ich auch noch Kind, aber ganz am Anfang, nö, da gab es keine Schiebetüren.
Yeah.
The Z Flip,
Yeah.
I think they're trying to still feel the flip, but telepresence. So
Yep. We can Zoom with everybody. We can
right,
meet
I
with
think
everybody.
AT&T was already on the heels of that with their video phone, and I don't think people realized at the time that when you call someone, they don't always want you looking at them.
Well, yeah, we learned that the hard way in the pandemic.
Oh my goodness. But you know, in 2001: A Space Odyssey, there was already a video phone, right? Right at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Somebody's calling their child.
Right, and it
at
was
the end,
AT&T.
AT&T says, you know, your cost is $1.70. Thanks for calling.
Exactly. So the 2001 film was shot in 1968.
That's right.
which was within just a couple of years of Star Trek.
That's right.
And so they're imagining video phones not 200 years in the future, just 35 years in the future.
They got it more correct.
Yeah, they got it a little more correct there.
Well, clearly everybody got it correct, because no matter where you went in the galaxy and no matter what species you encountered, Lieutenant Uhura, put on screen. And then the person would come up on screen and they'd be like,
yeah, Charles, where's the camera putting them up on screen?
Exactly.
Well, where is that?
No. It was a backlit screen. It was probably OLED or something like that. A lot of those technological things were actually done for entertainment, storytelling purposes, right? Not for scientific imagination.
I mean, in our world.
Yeah, the transporter was a classic example. They didn't want to spend a lot of time shuttling people back and forth on little boats. And so they just immediately, instantaneously brought someone from over here to over there. It was only after that became such a cool feature of the entire show that people started to retcon it and retroactively try to figure out what was the physics behind it. And they ran into all kinds of problems, so they just sort of said, yeah, it just sort of works.
You give them a hall pass on that one.
Yeah.
Because I heard that the cost, I just heard this once, and I didn't verify it, but it seemed plausible, that they costed out what it would take to have a ship land, have people get off the ship, and they get back on a ship and go back and dock.
Right.
So there's a cost, given how many times they're going back and forth to planets, to have to stage the landing of a spacecraft and have it take. So they just pulled this out of an orifice to make it happen. And now, like, what's the word you use?
Retcon, retroactive continuity.
Ooh, that's a thing.
Yeah.
I never heard of that.
It's very common in comic books. Something happens, and then you have to go back and say, "Oh, this is what
This is
actually
why it
stitch it. This
happened.
is why it works."
You have to stitch it back together.
You reverse engineer the science.
That's what it is.
Pretty much what it is.
That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's cool.
And so what about warp drives? That was it. That's really what blew this open for me.
I think so. We all
because they didn't say, "Oh, we just go faster than light." No, they didn't do that.
That's right.
Because they knew that's not allowed.
That's right.
This is tipping their hat to Einstein in a very important way.
They call it a warp factor, whatever.
Yes.
Right. And that warp drive eventually became also a significant storytelling thing, because then that meant it was an engine, and that engine had to be worked with exotic materials. There was a new thing invented called dilithium.
Dilithium
And
crystals.
the crystals were somehow important in making all of the matter-antimatter transaction work properly, although the terms matter and antimatter weren't used all that much in the original Star Trek.
No, they weren't.
Yeah,
Right.
and then later on, the so-called photon torpedoes were also revealed to be basically big chunks of antimatter that were in torpedoes that you could fire at people. But the ideas did come from this sense that we got to get from point A to point B, and we know they're far away. So we have to find some way to get from here to there, and that takes you somewhere that's not the usual dimensions of space. So that led to all kinds of wonderful stories, numerous episodes where some sort of warp drive failure or some sort of transporter failure would lead to a storyline.
whole story.
Yeah, that's true.
Really good stuff. One of the most revered episodes is called Mirror Mirror, where a transporter accident accidentally brings several members of the bridge crew into a parallel universe, something that we might think of in the main world's interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Exactly.
Right? And in this parallel universe, everyone was evil.
Evil Spock and evil Kirk.
Marvelous stories, right? And you could tell how the evil Spock was because he had a goatee. Whereas the good Spock was clean shaven. Right?
Yes.
In an age where cyber threats are everywhere, Bitdefender has been at the forefront of ransomware groups now 24 nation. Privatization of the zones or risks be or complex system in the link.
And that's
right.
The white hat and a.
Now, let's get back to the show.
And that in the old days it was a white hat and a black hat.
Diese Werbung ist was Schönes, aber wir müssen sie nicht mitnehmen.
Because the devil has a goatee.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. So wonderful stories.
Why wouldn't they?
So
I had some issues with things that maybe they could have thought about a little more deeply.
Oh, for sure.
So, for example, the phasers that came out of the ship.
Yeah.
If it's a directed energy weapon,
Yeah.
like a variant on a laser, of course, phaser, you should not be able to see it from the side.
Correct. Because if
Unless
it's properly
someone,
focused,
hit chalkboard erasers
Yep.
to make a cloud for you to see it go through the glass. It is the vacuum of space.
That's right.
It should not be visible from the side.
That's right. And that had to be retconned also. The idea that
so they have an
the
okay.
idea that phasers and lasers are completely different things was addressed later on in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, where they showed that lasers were extremely weak compared to phasers. Phasers are a whole different kind of energy beam weapon.
Right.
And as a result, they could be seen from the side. Furthermore, they dissipated over time so that if you missed, it wouldn't keep going.
It wouldn't keep going
and
forever.
eventually,
Right.
take out a planet or something.
By accident.
Yeah, 6 years later, there's just some ship just that explodes.
Houston, we have a problem.
Puff of smoke. All right. So what you're saying is so powerful, there's some energy leakage sideways that
That's
you
right.
could then see it.
That's
That's
right.
what that would mean.
And you know what's funny? I read a great thing about Gene Roddenberry when they were coming up. They originally were going to call them lasers, but they said, well, lasers are a real technology.
We got to futurize this.
Right, we got to make sure.
That
Who
makes a
knows
lot
where
of sense.
lasers will be in 10 years,
That's
and
right.
we'll look kind of stupid.
That's right.
So we gotta future-proof this.
That's really smart.
Yeah.
Because indeed, lasers wound up in everything that
Right.
we use.
Yes.
Right. And there was a day
DVD,
when Laser
all that.
Floyd
Son of
was
a
the big
buzzer.
attraction in the evening hours on the weekend at planetariums.
Right.
All right. And that's the 1970s. By the late 80s, lasers were like impulse items at Kmart. So no longer could you say, let's go see lasers.
Right.
It lost the draw.
The Laser Light Show
Right.
this Saturday night. Yeah, exactly.
One last thing, and then we got to go to Q&A because that's the whole point of this.
Okay.
It's hard enough having a conversation with somebody on the moon because the light travel time
Yes.
delays to like 2.5 seconds.
Yes.
So you can't have witty repartee.
Right.
They're talking to people halfway across the galaxy in Star Trek.
That's right.
I don't know that was addressed in the original
In
series.
the original series, it really wasn't addressed.
We just accepted the
We
fact.
just expect, yeah, you could do it. Okay. Your transponders, your communicators were just instantaneous. In the Next Generation, they came up with this idea of subspace communications. It was more properly addressed that the communications did not go through regular space. In fact, it had almost a different dimension or kind of sidestepped the dimensions of ordinary space that we
Some
went
kind
to.
of communication wormhole that they were able to.
Yeah, okay.
This kind of
okay.
communication was instantaneous. It was way faster than even the fastest starships.
So my sense of the transporter
Yeah.
is, because I get this question every now and then, and they say, how close are we to transporters? And I say, sometimes your goal is solved by a different solution that might be more creative or simpler than the one you think is necessary.
That's right.
And so I foresee a day where we do get command of wormholes, and you just step through a wormhole.
Yeah, you don't need a
I
transporter.
don't need to disassemble
your entire molecular construct and makeup and put it back together.
and put it back together
Right.
correctly.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in that sense, right, you're dependent on the network, right? The Star Trek Discovery series focuses on something called the mycelium network.
Right.
It's based
get
on
that from
you know,
biology.
like
mushrooms.
Almost, yeah, right. And of course, mushrooms are now very popular in science fiction. It is the basis for The Last of Us, the zombie apocalypse. Right?
Yes.
Fungus, more broadly.
Yeah, fungus more than mushrooms. But this mycelium thing,
Just
you're
to be clear,
dependent
fungus is a branch
Of
in the
It is
in
a
the
kingdom of
Yeah.
the tree of life.
Yeah.
Right.
As
Fungus and
diverse and cool as animals, as plants.
correct. Within the fungus kingdom, you have things like yeast, but you also have mushrooms that we eat, and mushrooms that'll kill us, and mushrooms that'll take you in your own subspace trip.
Right. The networks like that are very much like a public transportation network. You can only go to certain stations or certain places that you want, right? Transport allows you to go literally anywhere that you want to go, whenever you want to go.
No,
there.
I'm saying you have a machine that opens up a wormhole, like Rick and Rick and Morty, like Mr. Magic Guy in who's this guy?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
He opens a hole wherever he wants and whenever he wants.
Yeah.
So don't try to defend transporters on that
But then
basis.
you're in magic, dude. You're not in science
No,
anymore.
Rick uses real science.
Oh, of course.
Well, yeah, because well, of
Obviously.
course. Yes.
Whereas Dr. Strange,
Dr. Strange.
He uses magic. Right. And so we were duly informed that this whole study of the mycelium networks for mushrooms and mushrooms in general, fungus, is mycology.
Yes.
Which I think is a pretty cool
a wonderful area of study.
out there.
I recently heard a scientist describe the possibility that the reason that we mammals were able to evolve after the dinosaurs had their terrible extinction,
Right.
is because
We had a better
relationship with fungi.
with fungus.
Yeah.
Really?
Our body temperatures allowed us to resist infections and parasitic relationships with fungi, whereas, say, reptiles, which are cold-blooded, were not. And so over those 65 million years, the reptiles stayed, like crocodiles, for example. They're still roughly the same as they used to be, whereas we are way different from those little tiny...
Reptilian. No, Chuck still has a reptilian brain.
Without a doubt.
We all still have reptilians.
Without a doubt.
Some of us are just bigger and some of us just smaller.
I also like the sun on a rock. So.
Oh, me too.
With your belly out?
Yes, exactly.
Mouth wide open.
I forgot they do open their mouths, don't they? So if you look at the tree of life, what impresses me most, intrigues me most, is that the common ancestor between animals and fungus, between mushrooms and humans, split later in the tree of life than its common ancestor split with green plants. Which means humans and mushrooms are more genetically
related.
Either of us are to green plants.
To green plants.
Ain't that some
Ain't
stuff?
that something? Okay.
Pretty amazing.
And that's why.
Maybe that's why I love shiitake so much.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why no one has ever accused kale of tasting meaty.
Right. That's so
But
true.
people have used the word with mushrooms.
Ain't nobody ever had a kale burger, but people have had portobello
They have
burgers.
portobello burgers, and the umami that's been described is common in not only meats but in mushrooms. The umami flavor.
That's right.
Yeah.
When you eat it and you go, ooh, mommy.
Oh, mommy. Is that where that came from?
That's
in Japan, the first umami, because they came up with that
That's
one. I think
right.
it was Japanese, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Japanese. Yeah.
Aaron Jackson says, hello, Dr. Tyson, Star-Lord, and Dr. Luniverse.
Thank you.
Aaron from Lake Balboa, California here. My question has to do with the space-time travel at warp speed. A planet A is 100 light years from planet B. It would take the Starship Voyager 100 years to arrive at warp speed 101. Now, my question is, doesn't it get closer or farther away from planet A over that duration of 100 years, depending on the respective trajectories? In other words, the expansion of the universe, does it take warp speed? Does that take into account the expansion of the universe itself?
I presume that it must, right? It's not hard to make that calculation.
Right.
But Charles,
what we're talking about,
the universe is not expanding that far in the time it takes them to do it during the TV commercial.
what we should keep in mind is that most of the travel, in fact, almost all of the travel of Star Trek happens within our Milky Way galaxy.
Within the Milky Way.
And within that space, the expansion of the universe is completely counteracted by the gravitational pull that's of the objects in the galaxy.
So just to make sure I got it clear,
Right.
we're experiencing the expansion of the universe, but because we are coalesced by the gravity of our own galaxy, we're not experiencing it like we were outside of the galaxy. We're kind of all in it together, moving together.
To make a stronger point, that the forces that keep your body together, the molecular forces, the gravity, our proximity to Earth and Earth's proximity to the sun, and the sun's proximity to the center of the galaxy, that is tighter than any expansion of the universe would manifest on that scale.
Okay, I got you.
So we win.
We
win.
Right. Like the expansion of the universe is never going to pull us apart until you get to that place called the Big Rip. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, God. Anyway, so go ahead. That's a whole nother show. Another show.
That was an explainer in another episode.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
And so I wouldn't worry about that motion. It's something that we can compensate for easily.
With no problem.
And you sure he's not asking the question that in in Star Trek's version of the warp drive, aren't they pulling the object that's in front of you closer to you and then expanding the space behind you? so that you're effectively moving fast? That's not what he's asking?
That's the warp shell bubble.
Yeah, that's the thing that Miguel Alcubierre suggested in his calculations.
Dude, what is up with you, man? You are out of this world. I'm telling you right now. It's like, we just mentioned warp drive, and you're like, Michel Alcubierre. I'm like, where do you come up with this?
I didn't come
First
up
of all,
with
who
it.
is
Miguel
Michel
did.
Alcubierre?
No, he's a guy. He there's a lot written about that idea.
Right.
Enabling. Okay, that paper would have been intriguing and interesting just by itself.
Right.
In the scientific community.
Okay.
But sci-fi people
Took it and ran with it?
ran with it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Well, you just opened up a whole new world for me.
We'll enjoy
Yeah.
it. It's kind of fun.
And by the way, you
great.
pronounced it in a French way, but he's Spanish or Mexican.
Mexican.
He's
Oh,
Mexican.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
Miguel.
just like, Michel, what's up, Vato? Never mind.
Miguel.
Miguel. It's not
Miguel.
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 Right. So, yes, it is true that you pull space backward and forward, but in the continuity of Star Trek, the idea is after you've done the pulling, it snaps back into place, and you haven't noticed any change because it happens so fast. So you don't have to worry about space-time and distances distorting on a long-term basis. It just happens so quickly because you're traveling through
It's basically
space-time
a
in this
rubber band.
subspace bubble. Kind of.
Yeah.
Treat space
Wow.
and traveling through space like that.
Okay.
Amazing. All right, let's go.
Keep going.
Here we go. This is, oh my goodness. I don't know how to say this.
You never know how to say anybody's name. So don't.
Isn't that
this
true?
is not some exception to
All
the.
right, I'm going to call you Joe. This is Joe Samuel Lopez. He says, hello, Star Talk Enterprise. Oh, I see what you did there, Joe. J-Lo here from Portugal. Here's my simple question. What Star Trek characters do you identify with the most? And thank you.
Oh my
what a
goodness.
great
I love
question.
that.
question.
Totally have an answer to that.
You have
Really?
one too?
Oh yeah.
My answer is kind of a cop-out, but actually the reason I like Star Trek is because I don't affiliate with any individual character. I like the stories separate from me.
That's
See,
a cop out.
That's what I told you.
Next.
That's what I
Next.
told you.
Next.
No. What's yours? Nick?
No, Chuck.
Okay.
Oh, Chuck. Okay.
So the one I liked the most is Mr. Spock because I loved how logical he was, and I thought it would be so great to live your life without emotion and never be affected by things, just be able to assess them and analyze. But the one I truly identify with the most is Scotty because he's always freaking the hell out. You know, Cotton, I can't do it. I'm sorry. She's gonna blow Cotton. I can't do it. He always did it, which is more like who I am. He always said he can't do it,
Yeah, and
but
he
then he
succeeds.
always did it.
He
You know,
succeeds.
so it would be Scotty for real.
For me, it's James Tiberius Kirk.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Because, I've been in leadership positions, and you can lead in many different ways.
Right.
All right. One of them is you can just lead by example. Another one is you can just follow what everyone wants you to do.
Yep.
So you're the leader because you're actually following them.
Yep.
All right. That's technically what our elected officials
Well,
are
you're a
supposed to
manager.
do.
Well, that's
in that
right.
case,
Okay, then you're managed rather
Yeah.
than okay. And
Yeah.
so there are different ways to do that. For me, Kirk would get into his own fights. Jean-Luc Picard, did he ever go into fisticuffs with anybody?
Oh, yes.
As much as Captain Kirk did?
He didn't have to.
Oh, there was always a flashback, though.
There
It
were
wasn't like
certain
he
Oh,
was,
it was a
plenty of
flashback.
times.
it was always
Oh,
like,
you're referring to Tapestry.
yes.
Yes,
it
the
was
episode where he
always
gets
a
stabbed through the
and
heart by an
right.
angry Nausicaan over a pool fight.
Yeah.
Well, Dom Jock, technically.
But it ends up
no.
ends up being the defining and pivotal moment of his life that allows him to be the dynamic, definitive
Okay.
person that he is. But
Sort of.
yeah.
I like the fact
Yeah.
that Spock could not beat Kirk in a game of chess because Kirk made decisions that were not
Illogical.
not always logical.
Right.
And that means he was more human. And being human and fully experiencing everything that makes you human means the emotions have to flow through you in some way that you can manage and control, perhaps, but certainly express.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he would fight his own fights, he could outsmart computers. I always wanted that power. Okay. The computer says, this is the prime director. We must do this. But wait a minute. You are yourself a contamination on the... Error.
Sterilize sterilize.
Yeah. So that's right, the sterilized episode. So he would put it into a do loop, and the computer couldn't get out of it, and the smoke would come out of the computer.
Yeah, but I think that's really something that William Shatner had the writers put in more than. I just got a feeling that William Shatner was like, I am not going to be dumber than a computer. And I certainly am not going to be dumber than Nimoy. So you're going to make me win at chess and beat the computer. Like,
that is a little weird to come after the fact and beat the guy at chess.
Right.
Okay. So I identified immensely with his character.
Wow.
Right on.
That's cool.
Okay.
That's cool.
I love, that's good. There's so many of them now. Like it's hard. That's a hard question, because.
Oh, by the way, was it Sotheby's? Christie's had a Star Trek memorabilia auction.
Yes.
Okay. And so I attended. It was a multi-day thing. It was big, and I attended. And one of the things this is an obscure fact. One of the things they auctioned, were foam phasers. It is the phaser on the hip of the stunt doubles.
Gotcha.
In those scenes.
That makes sense.
Wow.
So that they don't get hurt.
So they don't get hurt by that, yeah.
Right.
Or break the phasers because they only had 6 of them.
That's right.
Let's be honest.
So I just know it's cool. They thought of everything,
Yeah,
right? When
they
you're
really
filming,
are.
you got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very cool.
You ever wanted one of your questions on the universe answered? We all have questions about the universe. From black holes to quasars, quantum entanglement, wormholes. There is no end to the depths of cosmic curiosity. Well, the entry level of Patreon membership with Star Talk, access programming, installment.
Do you think you would be doing? What?
Okay, but this had to be another universe. It wouldn't happen in this universe.
Okay.
I'd be a songwriter for Broadway musicals.
Ooh!
So that's the entry level. In fact, where we send you right now, you can't see fountain pen. And all of that ways of bringing, we welcome to bring the universe down to earth. As always, keep looking up.
All right, here we go. This is Bryant, and Bryant says, how close are we to developing a warp drive engine so that humans can have the ability to travel faster than light? So, first of all, is faster than light travel, well, is it possible? I mean, period.
We were just talking about Miguel Alcubierre's warp drive idea, right? Where you can warp space. No object can travel through space faster than light. It's a straightforward rule.
Object as distinct from energy
Energy.
and photons.
If
Right,
you have
which is
other
light.
things,
Light.
though, right, then they might be able to travel faster than
Now,
light.
what about the whole idea of warping space, bending it, so you're not traveling through the medium of space faster than the speed of light? What you're doing is you're bringing points of space together and then
Closer.
unfolding it so that you have traveled faster than the speed of light, but you have not broken the speed limit itself. What about that?
Aren't you effectively moving through a wormhole to connect those 2 points, though? We're still in wormhole world here.
What people are talking about when they're traveling faster than light is about moving from point A to point B, right, at a speed faster than 186,202 miles per second, excuse me. Right, it's that kind of thing. So what you were describing is exactly what Neil described, some sort of passageway that makes it different. Can we actually move from point A to point B at those speeds? Still no. But can we make space allow us to get from a point A in space to point B in space faster than light would have taken us to get there? That is still mathematically possible. The energetics of it, though, are way off the scale.
Mathematically possible?
Well, Einstein's general theory of relativity, right, shows the Einstein field equations.
Like the way he says it. Dude, Einstein's showed this.
Right.
I have to explain this? Okay.
I didn't mean it that way, Chuck. I'm sorry. Just saying that with Einstein's general theory of relativity, his field equations basically only at this moment, even 100 years after they've been written, only have a few solutions that we understand. You can manipulate the mathematics of it in many, many different ways, most of which are nonsensical physically, but some of which might actually show that there is a possible way of moving through space and time with that sort of faster than light warping technique. But in order to do it with enough energy to move and motion and kinetic stuff, that's the part you get stuck. Because the math shows you ways you can warp space and time to make it happen. But actually getting a piece of mass,
object,
like you and me, or a spaceship, from that point to that other point
Did you say a
requires...
piece of ass or a piece of mass? What did you... Piece of ass like you and me. I swear
Well-
that's what he said.
Well,
Both
I was
statements
going
are
to accept the
true,
compliment no matter what. Okay.
Both statements are true, but I
Both
said
statements are
mass.
true. But he's
Okay.
referring to the mass.
I'm
part.
like,
Mass.
I question not Charles's taste.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah. So that's how it works.
Oh.
You can move space and time, but moving a piece of material from one point in space and time to another point in space and time, that requires a lot more than just having the mathematical
Well,
ability
let's
to
settle
do it.
that here. So it's not a matter of new physics. It's a matter of technology working within a solution to that already known physics.
That's right.
Wow.
And I think we're very, very far away from it.
Far away.
All right.
Yeah. But possible is what I heard.
Okay.
It has
yeah.
not been ruled
Possible.
out completely.
I love it.
All right.
Okay, here we go.
Well, we
This
got a
is-
few more minutes. See how many we can
All right, so
slip
this
in
is
here.
Opal Lehman Space Nerd. Opal Lehman Space Nerd says, "Hi, my name is Opal Lehman. For Chuck, that's layman." Okay. God. I'm a 14-year-old. Really? 14 too?
Hey!
Oh,
14.
man. I'm a 14-year-old Atlanta, Georgia. And I was wondering how the antimatter warp drive containment system works. I read somewhere in the Space Chronicles book that they would need to hold the antimatter in a chamber made of antimatter so it wouldn't have to interact with the matter. But I was wondering how the antimatter containment system would be held. Would it be suspended in a
Oh, das ist eine
field
gute
of
Frage.
magnets or what?
That is correct. And by the way, I love that a 14-year-old is thinking about it.
That's
Oh, yeah.
isn't that-
This is just a wonderful thing.
I love that a 14-year-old just dissed me.
Or thought ahead of you
Yeah.
to know that you,
That
you
would
need
I
help.
would need help there.
Weißt du, was das Schlimme ist? In Deutschland, wenn 14-Jährige an sowas denken, werden sie in der Schule ausgelacht und die Lehrer erklären sie für bescheuert. In Wirklichkeit denkt er über was nach, was so weit ab von von allem ist, worüber er nachdenken sollte, dass das fantastisch ist und das sollte man fördern. Aber wir Deutschen kriegen das nicht hin. Unsere Schulbildung ist für den Arsch. Sieht man ja.
So what we're saying here is matter, antimatter, of course, annihilates
When they touch.
When they
in
touch.
contact, but if it's contained within a magnetic vessel,
Right.
a magnetic bottle of some kind, then it would basically bounce off the sides of the bottle without ever touching the matter that's
That's
exterior
right.
to it.
You would need to make sure that your antimatter is charged either positively or negatively, and then you would create the bottle with that same kind of charge, and it would be contained inside this so-called bottle, but it's not actually a physical bottle
not a
made
physical-
up of matter.
And by the way, the charges,
The field is the bottom.
I'm getting
The field is the bottom.
The charges interact with the magnetic field, and why do they do that? Because it is one force, the electromagnetic
Magnetic force. Yo, that's
They go together.
That's really
and that's
cool.
why they're not just separate entities.
that is so
That's
cool.
why they can talk to each other.
That's amazing.
It's good.
And
Ich glaube, ungefähr dieselbe Erklärung gibt es auch in Star Trek. Ich bin mir jetzt nicht sicher, ob in TOS oder in das nächste Jahrhundert, aber genau diese Erklärung ist da auch mit drin. Und das finde ich so faszinierend, dass in der Serie was beschrieben wurde, ungefähr so, wie die es gerade beschrieben haben, und Wissenschaftler das dann Jahre später wirklich bestätigt haben, dass das so funktionieren würde.
then
Noch ein Fun Fact. Die NASA hat wohl angeblich ein Projekt gestartet, um den Warp Drive zu bauen. Ob das stimmt, weiß ich nicht. Ich arbeite nicht bei der NASA. Bin ich auch viel zu dumm für. Aber wenn das wirklich stimmt, werden wir, glaube ich, nicht mehr miterleben, dass wir mal mit einem Warp Drive durch die Gegend fliegen. Ich finde es allerdings interessant, dass sie das machen. Ich meine, vieles andere aus Star Trek wurde ja auch ermöglicht. Communicator zum Beispiel, hey, Smartphone, Tablets, wir haben Touch-Oberflächen mittlerweile. Das wäre jetzt Star Trek The Next Generation. Du kannst nur noch mit einem Knopf im Ohr telefonieren. Das wäre dann Uhura auf der Brücke mit ihrem Ding im Ohr. Alter, es ist so viel möglich geworden dank Science Fiction. Science Fiction bringt die Menschen zum Träumen und die Wissenschaftler zum Schwärmen und dann versuchen sie es hinzukriegen. Und genau das ist es. Wir müssen wieder mehr träumen und den Wissenschaftlern mehr Freiraum lassen. Aber heutzutage will jeder nur seinen eigenen Scheiß machen. Ich meine, guckt euch doch in der Welt um. Was haben wir denn da? Wir haben einen Multimilliardär, der in den USA der reichste Mann der Welt ist, der die US-amerikanische Wahl manipuliert hat, was Fakt ist, damit Donald Trump dahin kommt, wo er ist. und der auch in Deutschland gerne eine bestimmte Partei oben hätte und das immer wieder auf seinem Social Media Gedöns postet. Dieser Mann sorgt dafür, dass Wissenschaftler nicht mehr träumen. Leute, die unter ihm arbeiten, träumen nicht mehr. Die setzen seine Vorstellungen um. Er träumt. Aber wenn die Wissenschaftler nicht selber träumen, dann kann daraus nichts werden, meines Erachtens nach. Weil dann stehen sie nicht ganz dahinter. Ich meine, es ist beachtlich, was er erreicht hat mit SpaceX oder Leute, die dafür arbeiten. Und er hat die Ideen ja beigesteuert, zum Teil. Und das Geld. Aber trotzdem ist dieser Mann mir echt suspekt mittlerweile. Ich habe ihn mal für einen sehr intelligenten Menschen gehalten. Mittlerweile halte ich Elon Musk eigentlich nur noch für einen geldgierigen Idioten. Weil er geht für Geld wirklich über an Leichen, könnte man schon fast sagen. Und das ist schade eigentlich. Weil ich finde die Zukunft eigentlich ziemlich schön, so wie er sie mal ausgemalt hat. Das ist aber schon sehr lange her, da war er noch ein anderer Mensch. Mittlerweile ist der durch seine viele Langeweile und das viele Geld wahrscheinlich ganz weit rechts abgebogen. Leider.
Because they're like charged, it's kind of bouncing off of it.
That's right.
Dude, that's amazing.
Exactly.
I love it. God, even science fiction is awesome as science. That's so great.
All right.
All right, here we go. This is Brian Lacey. Brian says, hi, guys, from Baltimore. Brian from Baltimore here. As our technological needs increase, so does our need for a strong and reliable power grid. In Star Trek, they're powering giant ships and even bigger space stations. I know fusion is always 20 years away, but in the far future, what are they using? Also, how are they powering similar, smaller devices like phasers?
That's right.
It's amazing because a phaser is very small, but a huge power source.
Right. So where's all the power come from? And don't just say dilithium crystals.
Because I don't have enough, Captain. I don't have enough. Okay.
It is a question that hasn't been satisfactorily answered. The idea must be that they have some sort of amazing battery, right? Some sort of power supply that they can store enough power in, like a
Right, 'cause
phaser.
you don't see them refueling
That's
anywhere.
right. You can wipe out entire buildings
Right.
with something that's just in the palm of your hand.
And that makes sense because they can actually set phasers to overload,
That's
which
right.
I don't know why you would ever include
Overload.
that.
What happens in overload?
They blow up.
They blow
like
up.
bombs. You can use them as
as a bomb.
detonated
Right.
devices, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that sound it makes. That. Yeah. Okay.
Just so you know it's about to blow.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, so
Ich glaube, in Star Trek das nächste Jahrhundert wird ein Phaser als Batterie eingesetzt. Und da wird auch erklärt, dass die Dinger aufgeladen werden müssen. Oder war es Deep Space? Nein, ich weiß jetzt nicht genau. Ich meine, in einem von beiden wird erwähnt, dass der Phaser mal leer sein kann. Dass da nichts mehr kommt. Also muss es eine Batterie sein. Es kann keine eigene Energiezelle sein, die die Kraft erzeugt. So eine kleine Fusionszelle oder so. Also es muss wohl wirklich eine Batterie sein. Ein Akku. Und ich meine, die exotischere Art von Energieherstellung haben die Romulaner. Die benutzen eine Quantensingularität. Sprich ein kleines schwarzes Loch. Wie bekloppt muss man sein, um das zu machen?
So the way that you draw power out of something like that must be through some sort of a battery or a capacitor or something like that. But it has never been properly described just how that could be put into something.
Just quickly tell everyone what a capacitor is.
Capacitor is basically two plates of conducting things.
Like metal, typically.
Yeah, and you can store charge on one, waiting to jump onto the other. Basically, it's a something that can work like a battery, but transfer a huge amount of electricity very quickly. So, for example, defibrillators have a capacitor in them. You have the battery charged with capacitor, and then when the defibrillator goes off, the capacitor sends thousands of volts in a fraction of a second. And that's how that works.
From one contact to the other.
Correct.
And it goes through the heart, ideally,
Yeah.
to
Right,
pump it into
to reset it.
Deswegen wird das eine Ding auf die rechte Seite gehalten, das andere Ding auf die linke Seite, sodass der Strom dann auch wirklich durch das Herz durchgeht. Ansonsten würde das nämlich gar nichts bringen. Weil ihm das Ding an den Bauch zu halten, ja schön, der Magen und der Darm wird angeregt, aber das Herz bleibt so, wie es ist.
Unfortunately, the power sources of these devices have never been properly described
In any of the
Star Trek
episodes.
universe, in any of the
Okay,
episodes.
all
Just-
right.
Beschrieben werden sie nicht, nur wie gesagt, irgendwo in Star Trek wird mal gezeigt, dass die aufgeladen werden müssen. Also von daher, das gibt's schon. Aber ob da jetzt eine Batterie drin ist oder so, das wird nie wirklich gesagt. Aber wenn man das auflädt, gehe ich mal davon aus, dass da eine Batterie ist. Also von daher präzisiere ich mal.
How
Yeah,
convenient.
you just have to assume that some battery or some capacitor has incredible power.
Okay. So, Chuck, I don't know how much. We got time for like one more question.
Really?
here.
Oh, man. Doggone it. Here we go. This is Steph. And Steph says, Captain's Log, 2024, Alpha, Omega. Greetings, Dr. Tyson, Lou, and Lord Chuck Nice. And that's enough of that from me. He says, as we reflect on the world of Star Trek, which is set around the year 2260, I wonder about the feasibility of achieving the advanced technology depicted in the series by that time. Considering how Back to the Future 2 envisioned the technological landscape of the early 2000s and how closely it aligned with our actual progress, aside from the absence of flying cars, what are the prospects of realizing similar advancements as portrayed in Star Trek by the year 2260? So,
Yeah.
what are we looking at? Are we really looking at, okay, I'll put it to you this way to call this down. What percentage of these technological wonders that we see in Star Trek will actually exist by the year?
Or within 200 years.
Within 200 years. My prediction, 1%.
Dag! That is so disappointing.
Not at all. 1% of all the stuff that was shown out there.
That's true.
is
That's
pretty
a lot of
amazing
great stuff.
Think of what's already happened, right? Communicators,
Right.
video calls. We were
Right.
talking about this
Yeah,
earlier,
we're talking about that, right?
There's a lot that's already existed. We've basically hit the point in Star Trek technology where we are doing stuff that our
Did you just make that up, technology? Because that's really cool.
That's a long. No, technology is a long, oft-used phrase. Don't
Okay,
worry.
technology.
Technology.
I
Where
can
have I
take no
been?
credit for it.
That's
I can
great.
Take no
But
credit.
go
for
ahead.
it.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we've reached the point where the stuff we don't know how it works yet basically needs physics we don't understand yet. So if 1 out of 100 of the physics we don't understand is resolved, I'm happy. I'm psyched. All right.
Gotcha.
But yes,
I see
it
what
is
you're
true.
doing there. That's so you're relating it back to the actual science,
Right.
the discoveries that we may make that will allow these technological advances to come true.
That's why I made the point earlier. Are we missing physics or are we missing technology?
Right.
And one has to come. Generally, one doesn't occur without the other.
Okay.
In a scenario where you've got technology doing amazing, fun things. Right. You need the attendant physics to go with it.
I think that's where we
Interesting.
are now.
Right.
And I'm
Interesting.
excited because we are doing amazing things in our discoveries and our studies. And once we break through that physics level, what is dark matter? What is dark energy?
Right.
Just
Ich stimme denen soweit zu, aber einen Fakt haben sie außen vor gelassen. Das ist die menschliche Entwicklung. Ich bin fest davon überzeugt, dass die technologische Entwicklung, egal auf welche Art und Weise, so wie die sie hier beschreiben, und die menschliche Entwicklung in geistiger Form, körperlicher Form, was auch immer, was ihr euch darunter vorstellt, 1:1 laufen muss. Also da gibt es keinen, das eine läuft vor, das andere kommt hinterher. Wir haben gesehen, was daraus wird, wenn man anfängt, mit Technologie rumzuspielen, die nicht unbedingt sehr sicher ist. Ich spiele da gerade auf die Atombomben drauf an. Die Atomkraft an sich, kann man eine Menge mitmachen. Absolut. Da würde jeder Wissenschaftler zustimmen. Aber wenn es darum geht, Bomben zu bauen, aus Sachen, die eigentlich für friedliche Zwecke eingesetzt werden können, da sind wir Menschen groß drin. Da bauen wir richtig groß auf. Da werden Bomben gebaut, die Planeten zerstören können. Ja, aber wem bringt denn das was? Und solange die Menschheit nicht begreift, dass Kriege zum Beispiel absoluter Humbug sind, oder aber dass sich gegenseitig umbringen absoluter Humbug ist, und dass man Geld nicht essen kann, solange wird unser technologischer Fortschritt langsamer voranschreiten. Wenn wir alle zusammenarbeiten würden, bin ich fest von überzeugt, dann würden wir einen riesigen Sprung machen in der Evolution. Und zwar nicht nur in der technischen, sondern auch in der menschlichen Evolution. Und das ist der Punkt, den sich hier ein bisschen außer Acht lassen, meines Erachtens nach.
to start with.
Yeah, dark energy is opposite gravity.
Right.
Everything it does is what gravity does not want it to do. And so that if we can harness that, oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. You're talking about an entirely new realm of physics opening up.
Realm of physics.
Yeah, that's
Just
wow. Now I'm excited.
Think about a realm of physics.
It's a good
That's
thing.
a really exciting way to look at it.
Other realms of physics in 1900 and a little earlier were the first hints of something unusual going on inside of atoms. And we are now in the centennial decade of the development and discovery of quantum physics.
Interesting.
A whole realm that enabled computers.
Absolutely.
There is no storage,
Yes.
creation, storage, or retrieval of information, digital information, without an exploitation of the quantum physics.
Right.
Oh my gosh. What a segue that was.
Right back to the handy
Handy
answer book
answer
for
book.
quantum physics.
Yeah.
Yo, that's really cool, man. That's
Here's something that clearly will never come true because it hasn't come true yet.
Okay.
Every sci-fi movie
Yes.
in the future, everyone's wearing the same clothes.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Everybody, they got these shoulder things, and they're all wearing the same.
I am Gleep. Right.
right?
Exactly, right.
We have resisted that
Yes.
to this day.
And I think that's because it's one of the easiest things to resist. We want to make things uniform. We want to make things predictable, but we want to keep ourselves unpredictable
As individuals.
as
Right,
individuals.
right.
And what's the
very good.
easiest way
The
to do
easiest
that?
way
Is wear
of
something different.
self-expression is to what you put on your body.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
good,
Yeah.
good.
Da haben sie jetzt gerade einen Denkfehler. Ja, in Star Trek, die tragen alle dieselben Klamotten, aber im Prinzip ist die Sternenflotte ja auch eine Organisation. Sprich, das sind Uniformen, die sie tragen. Privat tragen die Leute da auch andere Sachen. Sieht man bei Deep Space Nine, wenn Sisko seinen Vater auf der Erde besucht und man da die Leute im Restaurant sieht. Da sitzen nicht nur Sternenflottenoffiziere, da sitzen ganz normale Menschen, die alle was Unterschiedliches anhaben. Müsst ihr mal drauf achten. Und bei den anderen Filmen? Nehmen wir Alien. Erstens, das sind Soldaten, die tragen auch eine Uniform. Und Ripley ist Wissenschaftlerin. Die hat sich zwar etwas angeglichen mit ihrem Kleidungsstil, weil es praktischer ist, wenn man da auf einer Außenmission ist, aber ja, nee, lassen wir es. Ne? Also, es ist, wenn man in einer Organisation ist und im Weltraum fliegt, dann trägt man halt eine Uniform. Es ist halt so. Und manchmal ist das dann auch praktischer. Aber die normalen Menschen werden auch in Zukunft weiterhin ihre individuelle Kleidung tragen. Klar wird auch diese irgendwelche Upgrades beinhalten, dass sie, was weiß ich, besser ist, pflegeleichter ist oder sonstiges. Ne? Sucht es euch aus. Also das finde ich hier einen kleinen Denkfehler von den Herren Wissenschaftlern. Aber ist ja okay.
I like that.
Or not.
Okay.
As anybody who has a young child knows, they will go through a phase where they're like, I'm going to be naked and this is just how I am. You know.
I remember those days. They were very freeing.
Yes, and it's just like we're at a restaurant. You can't do it right now. It's just like, I don't care about your food. I want to be naked.
Is that how your children speak? I had a 16-year-old high school girl
Yeah.
in this office, in fact, that chair, who was not even part of the original invite of who came to my office. It was her boyfriend, who was a big astrophysics fan, and he just dragged her. Only would I learn, because I like engaging everyone who comes into my office, because there were 4 of them in there, because it was the kid, his sister, both their parents, and the guy's girlfriend. Okay. And she was just sitting there, and I just try to engage everybody. And I'd say, what are you into? And I forgot what she said, but she said she really likes Star Trek.
Hey.
And I said, she's 16. I said, whoa, like, by how much do you like Star Trek? She said, I bought you a gift. I don't know how she got it. This is the Federation trivia book.
Wow.
Mission 1 and Mission 2.
Whoa.
This is back when, this is like typewriter typeface.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let's see if Charles can maintain
He's gonna
his geek and
he's
chic.
gonna blow
He's
gonna blow it away.
I'm not.
I'll play
I'm
along
not sure,
for fun,
guys.
but
I'm not that good
This
with this
is
sort of
like
stuff.
50 pages.
I'm not that
Here
good
it
with this sort
is.
of stuff.
All right,
there we go.
here we go. Revised 2nd edition, 1976.
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
Who is D.C. Fontana?
Oh, she was a very famous science fiction writer who wrote a number of beautiful episodes of Star Trek.
Look at what I tell you.
Okay,
This guy's,
okay. What is Spock's last name?
You couldn't pronounce it.
Good answer.
Well played.
Well played.
Well played.
Well played. Okay. What is Sulu's first name?
Hikaru.
Damn.
Look at you, man. Killing this.
Just getting lucky, guys.
In what year was Flint born?
I do not know.
Who's Flint?
I don't remember Flint.
What happened to Scotty in The Changeling?
I should know this, but I don't. He got changed, I guess, into a ling.
Okay. Name the woman Kirk cannot help loving.
Is that Joan Collins?
No, isn't it the nurse? Nurse
Chapel?
Oh, that's
Nurse Chapel?
right. No, but it's not
No,
Nurse
no,
Chapel. They made him love her.
Well, there was one where when he touched the tears of a particular alien woman, you would have to fall in love with this woman.
Right.
But unfortunately, they actually broke that spell because his one true love was
Is the Enterprise. I remember that.
Oh my gosh! Oh,
Yeah.
see, I want to be Kirk. I'm Kirk.
He loves his
I'm
ship
totally
more.
Kirk on that.
Right.
A couple more, just a couple more.
That's because he had, sex with so many aliens.
I know, right? Right?
It was like whatever.
Right?
Yes.
Who is Jojo Krakow? Charles.
Sorry,
Charles,
guys. I'm not
we're
that
gonna have
good
That's
at this
obscure.
sort of stuff.
Jojo Krakow.
Oh,
Sounds
okay.
like someone from the Piece of the Action, but I don't remember the exact name.
Oh, that was one of my least favorite episodes.
Really?
Yeah, totally. Okay.
Worst gangster name ever.
Well, that was the point. They were trying to.
Yeah,
make the fact
see, I'm Jojo Krakow. See, yeah, that's right.
that- Okay.
What was the planet in the Man Trap?
It was the planet. Hey,
I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank. I don't know that one. Alas.
Okay, so you're not infallible. That was the
Absolutely
evidence. That's
not.
what we needed here.
Oh, please.
Our
Yes.
geek in chief has some blind spots.
yeah, the blind
As
spots
well I
that you would
should.
have to be a writer of Star Trek not to have. You have to be one of the writers.
When I think of science fiction and storytelling embedded within it, often it's not just allegory for the challenges that we face in everyday life. At its best, it's that, yes. But for me, they also represent dream states
Yeah.
of a future that if we try hard enough, that we can make happen. And we know it's not going to happen without our collective investments, without our collective sense of what we want to be there waiting for us in the future. But I ask myself, without science fiction, would we still be in the caves? Without somebody thinking about a future and what role science, technology, invention, innovation, without what role those could play in our lives, I don't want to live in that world. I want to always live, not just believing, but knowing that we will all be living differently tomorrow than we are today. And not just differently, living better. Star Trek not only gave us a glimpse into what the future of science and technology might bring, each episode, at its best, was also a morality tale. Because what good is the power of science and technology going into the future?
Merkt euch das mit der Moralgeschichte? Das ist bei Star Trek wirklich so. Das haben sie erst mit den neuen Serien abgeschafft, Discovery, Picard und so. Aber die Originalserie, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager und auch Enterprise mit Archer, die alle hatten Moral in ihren Folgen. Und die Moral stand da immer ziemlich weit oben. Du hattest immer ein moralisches Dilemma. Immer.
Without the wisdom to harness it, to do right by it, to do right by your neighbor in the presence of such power. So, if there's a world without science fiction, I don't want to live in it. Keep it coming so that we can all dream about a tomorrow that's better than today. That is a cosmic perspective. The two of you, professionally in your lives, have served as radio announcers.
Correct.
That is true.
Okay, so I have not, but I've pretended I was at times. I want you in sequence to give me your smoothest radio voice saying, "This has been Star Talk." Keep looking up. Okay? Your smoothest radio voice. We're going to come down the line there, and the audience is going to get it 3 times. Okay, go. Charles.
This has been Star Talk. Keep looking up.
This has been Star Talk. Keep looking up.
This has been Star Talk. Keep looking up.
Wow, das klang ziemlich gut von allen 3. Ich finde es sehr interessant, wenn sich Wissenschaftler über Star Trek oder Science Fiction allgemein unterhalten. Weil da kommt manchmal sehr interessante Dinge bei rum. Gerade wenn man solche Größen wie Neil deGrasse Tyson dabei hat. Und die einem dann auch noch erklären, ob das wirklich möglich ist oder nicht. Was können wir hier rausziehen? Wir haben schon ziemlich viel erreicht von dem, was in Star Trek zu sehen ist. Ein Transporter? Ja, irgendwann vielleicht mal, aber im Moment no. Ein Warp Drive? Ja, ist möglich, aber wird wahrscheinlich auch noch sehr lange dauern. Allerdings möchte ich auch nicht, dass die Menschheit Antimaterie in dem Maße herstellt, wie sie dann dafür braucht. Weil Antimaterie, damit kann man den ganzen Planeten vernichten, wenn man es will. Und das ist halt dann auch so eine Sache. Ich fand es ganz schön, am Ende jetzt noch ein bisschen Wissenschaft mit reinzubringen. Und im Star Talk selber ist des häufigeren mal so Sachen drin. Die Wissenschaft hinter Interstellar zum Beispiel gibt es noch eine Folge, die kenne ich auch. Und es ist wahnsinnig interessant, wenn man sich dann mal anguckt, dass das, was in dem Film gezeigt wird, zum Beispiel jetzt auf Interstellar bezogen, dass das wirklich so existieren könnte. Und das ist hier ja auch gewesen. Und deswegen finde ich das so geil. Und ich werde das, glaube ich, wohl einmal die Woche oder so oder alle 2 Wochen, werde ich das, glaube ich, auch mal einen Abend machen. So ein bisschen Wissenschaft hinter der Science Fiction beleuchten. Weil mir gefällt's. Ich finde sowas cool, die Wissenschaft zu beleuchten. Und vielleicht gefällt es euch ja auch. Weil sie haben recht. Erträumt euch eure Zukunft. Näher dran kommen werdet ihr nicht. Wir nicht, aber unsere Nachfahren vielleicht. Wer weiß. Vielleicht werden irgendwann die Menschen zurückblicken und sagen, ach, haben die mickrig gelebt. Wir leben jetzt besser. Das mag sein. Aber wir haben wenigstens davon geträumt. Und das finde ich eigentlich auch ganz schön. Sich eine heile Welt erträumen ist besser, als in einer kaputten Welt zu leben. So, und nun wünsche ich euch eine wunderbare Nacht. Möge die Macht mit euch sein und lebt lang und in Frieden. Bis dann. Macht's gut.